Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to Virtual University. I am your course instructor, Dr. Sania Zahra Malik. I have done my PhD in Business Administration from University of Glasgow, United Kingdom. My areas of interest are within the fields of organizational behavior and human resource management, with a particular focus on positive organizational scholarship. I teach the courses related to human resource management and organizational behavior. I have been given the responsibility to facilitate your learning in the course of training and development. Training and development is, as you know, it is one of the functions of human resource management. Human resource management, as you know, is one of the functions of management itself. Other functions of management are finance, marketing, research and development, production and operations, and human resource management is one of the functions of management. Human resource management is one of the most important functions of management now. Why? Because human resources of an organization are something that give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. All the other things, all the other resources can be replicated. But the human resources of an organization cannot be replicated. There is only one Bill Gates. There is only one Mark Zuckerberg. There is only one Steve Jobs. And nobody could replicate their personalities. Nobody could replicate their leadership styles. But yes, we can learn from them. We can learn how they make an organization excel. And all the excelling organizations in this world, take any name, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Nokia, Motorola, Toyota, from any industry, take any name. They invest in their human resources. They are concerned about their human resources. Their human resource function is structured. And there is a lot of investment from the organization in that function. Having said that, as I said in the start, that training and development is then a sub-function of human resource management. The other functions of human resource management, they are human resource planning, recruitment and selection, compensation and benefits, performance management, and training and development. Now, training and development is again one of the very important functions of human resource management. Why? Because this is the function, this is the process through which you make people a part of your organization. You make them learn those skills and abilities, those capabilities, those management styles, that personality which is required by the structure and culture of your organization. मुझसे बहुत से लोग पूछते हैं कि इतनी ट्रेनिंग और डेवलपमेंट की क्या जरूरत है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, जबकि हम बहुत अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटी से पढ़े हुए लोगों को हायर करते हैं हर फील्ड में, मैनेजमेंट के फील्ड में, इंजीनियरिंग के फील्ड में, सर्विस के फील्ड में. हम बहुत अच्छी यूनिवर्सिटी से पढ़े हुए लोगों को हायर करते हैं. उन्होंने सब कुछ पढ़ लिया है, उन्होंने सब कुछ सीख लिया है, तो अब हमें मजीद ट्रेनिंग एंड डेवलपमेंट करवाने की क्या जरूरत. स्टूडेंट्स मुझसे पूछते हैं कि हमने अभी भी आगे भी सीखते जाना है, हमारी पढ़ाई यहां पे खत्म नहीं होगी. नहीं. The actual process of learning is going to start when you leave your educational institution and start working in an organization. अभी तो सिर्फ आपने पढ़ा है, अभी तो सिर्फ आपने कॉन्सेप्ट पढ़ा है, थ्योरी को पढ़ा है. प्रैक्टिस में एक्चुअली कैसे करना है और एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की रिक्वायरमेंट के मुताबिक कैसे करना है, ये तो आपको वहीं जाके पता चलेगा, आप वहीं पे जाके सीखेंगे जब आप उसको एक्चुअली प्रैक्टिकली करेंगे. And there are so many details, there are so many important intricacies of applying your concepts, applying your knowledge to the practical life that it cannot be left unattended. So it is the responsibility of the organizations to help people learn the skills and abilities that are required for the successful performance of their jobs. So training and development is a lifelong function which an organization has to perform for the employee. And the employee has to go through this process of learning throughout their careers. Learning will never stop. So the myth that learning will stop after you have graduated from your educational institution is incorrect. Your actual learning is going to start when you join an organization and start practical life. Having said that, training and development is an important function of the organization. But today, I'm not going to talk about training and development, or I'm not going to talk about the definition of it or the contents of it. Today, I'm going to talk about something of a larger implication. I'm going to talk about something which will make you realize, which will make you understand why training and development has become such an important function of the organization. Why learning is so important now. Why learning cannot only be done through getting experiences. Why do we have to make specific interventions to make people learn quickly, to make people learn more effectively? उसके लिए मैं बात यहां से शुरू करना चाहूंगी कि आप अपने बिजनेस के फंक्शंस को ही देख लें. आज से कुछ सदियों पहले, let's say 200 years ago, when the farmer used to produce crops in his fields, he would cut the crops and take them to the market, sell them, keep some of them for his household use, and sell the rest of them, get some money for it, and that was the entire business function. Then organization or business, it moved from this very small scale to household industry. अब किसान ने जब फसल उगाई है, कुछ उसमें से उसने रख लिया, कुछ उसमें से उसने बेच दिया. There are no complex functions of marketing and finance and HRD and R&D involved in that. It is just simple production and selling. But then business moved from this small scale to household industry, where production was carried on for the purpose of selling. So a shoemaker would make some shoes and sell those shoes within his own community. उनका हिसाब रखने के लिए उसके पास एक सिंपल प्रोबेबली रिकॉर्ड बुक होगी, एक लेजर होगा, जिसमें वो कितना खर्च हुआ, कितना रेवेन्यू आया, कितने पैसे आए, वो उसका हिसाब रख के तो महीने के एंड पे या दिन के एंड पे उसका हिसाब कर लेता होगा. But then with industrial revolution, the business expanded from cottage industry, from small scale industry to a very large scale enterprise with the ability to produce in large quantities and then with the ability to transport materials and products to dispersed geographical locations, the business grew into a large-scale enterprise. And therefore, अब इस बड़ी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को मैनेज करने के लिए सिर्फ अकाउंटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स जरूरी नहीं है. अब चूंकि आपने अपने प्रोडक्ट को ज्योग्राफिकली डिस्पर्स्ड लोकेशंस पे बेचना है, you need the function of marketing. You need to sell that product. You need to make people aware of the existence of that product. So finance में फिर marketing भी add हो गया. Then with the development in the previous 50-60 years, the development of human rights, the development of women's rights, empowerment, flexibility, flatter organizations. This led to the requirement of human resource management being a very important function of the organization. अब हमें human resources को भी effectively manage करने की ज़रूरत है. So human resource का function भी add हो गया. फिर with advancement in technology, with rapid changes in technology, we realize that it is very important to add a function of research and development in the organization as well. तो अब आप क्या देखते हैं कि आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एक सिंपल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से एक बहुत कॉम्प्लेक्स ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनती जा रही है. यहां पे मेरा मकसद आपको एवोल्यूशन ऑफ द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन समझाना नहीं था. What I want you to understand is that the complexity of the organization with the passage of time is increasing. I now want you to look not just at the organization, but around you in every field of life through a lens of complexity. Look at your life around you and try to imagine how complexity in this world is increasing in every area of your life. When you think, there are various dimensions in which you can understand that the complexity of the organization, the complexity of the world is increasing day by day. How it is increasing? For example, complexity in knowledge. We know about this world in a much complex way. We know a lot more about the atom even. पहले हमें सिर्फ पता था कि ये protons, neutrons और electrons होते हैं. Now we have understanding of the atom in a much deeper way. We know about the universe. We know about the human body in a much complex, in a much deeper way. So, knowledge complex होता जा रहा है. हमारी equations complex होती जा रही हैं. Things cannot be defined in simple manners. The knowledge is becoming a lot more complex. Then complexity in technology. I think this I don't need to explain. Complexity in technology, you can well imagine yourself. For example, your mobile phone. 10 years ago, a mobile phone only used to be a device from which you can make calls or receive calls. Or you can send messages. But now your mobile phone, it has become such a complex device from which you can do so many activities. You can open your social media forums like Facebook and Twitter. You can download documents, edit them, and then send them back. You can use email. You can play games on it. So you can do so many things on that small device. that device has become a lot more complex. Look at the automobile industry. A simple car has turned into such a complex machine. You have so many new added features to that. For example, automatic braking system, electronic control system, hybrid cars, they used a very different kind of technology. So it is a very complex machine now. So complexity in technology is increasing. Then another aspect of complexity is not on the physical terms, it is on the social terms. The cultures are becoming a lot more complex. आज से कुछ अर्सा पहले तक cultures would stay restricted to their geographical locations. For thousands of years, people would not interact at a very large magnitude. There would be some interactions. कभी कुछ काफले एक जगह से उठ के दूसरी जगह चले जाते थे, कुछ information transfer हो जाती थी, लेकिन उसके लिए कितना time लगता था. In the early 1700s, it would take the same time to circle the Earth as it takes today to reach Mars. So just compare how far away Mars is, and we can reach it in the same time we were able to circle the Earth 300 years ago. And don't consider 300 years ago as a very long time. If you compare it with the history of mankind, which is spread over thousands of years, 300 years is not a very long time. And when we compare what used to be the world 100 years ago and how it is today, the rate of change is huge. The rate of change is monumental. And all this is leading to increasing complexity of the world. Okay, so another dimension on which complexity is increasing, that is the dimension of processes. For example, take the process of learning, process of education. आज से 100 साल पहले पढ़ने के लिए, पढ़ाने के लिए, education के लिए, there used to be a simple classroom with a board and a teacher. और उसके पास एक ही किताब होती थी, और उस किताब में से वो जो पढ़ा देता था, स्टूडेंट उसको एब्सोल्युटली सच समझ के, ठीक समझ के एक्सेप्ट करता था. Now if you look at the function of education, the process of education, how complex it has become. There are so many different options available to you for educating yourself. If you don't want to go to a classroom, you can learn online. You can learn in the way you are learning through virtual university. This is a totally different mode of learning. You don't have to attend any classroom lectures. You don't have to actually go to a certain university or a facility to attend those lectures. You can watch them on YouTube. You can watch them on air. You can buy CDs of that and then watch them at whatever time is suitable for you. Then we try to incorporate so many different aspects of learning in the process of education. We want to have classroom lectures, we want to have discussions, we want to have internships, we want to have case studies, workshops, seminars. So it is a very rich process of education. But the process itself has become a lot more complex. So what I want you to realize is that the complexity in every aspect of life is increasing. हमें ये illusion होता है, हमें ये लगता है कि लाइफ सिंपल से सिंपल होती जा रही है. अब अकाउंटेंट को मैनुअली जो अपने रिकॉर्ड्स मेंटेन करने पड़ते थे, अब अकाउंटेंट उनको कंप्यूटर में डालता है. बैलेंस शीट, इनकम स्टेटमेंट, कैश फ्लो स्टेटमेंट, they are all generated automatically. You just have to enter the amounts. और कई जगह पे आपको वो भी नहीं करना पड़ता. Everything is automated. और वो एंट्रीज भी खुद ही आपके सॉफ्टवेयर्स में होती जाती हैं. सो अब अकाउंटेंट का काम बहुत आसान हो गया. सो द पॉइंट इज दैट द अकाउंटेंट्स लाइफ हैज बिकम वेरी सिंपल. Our everyday life has become very simple. हमें बहुत दूर से पानी लेने नहीं जाना पड़ता, हमें हाथ से कपड़े नहीं धोने पड़ते, हमें हाथ से सफाई नहीं करनी पड़ती, वैक्यूम क्लीनर अवेलेबल है. हमें डिश वॉशिंग नहीं करनी पड़ती, डिश वॉशर अवेलेबल है. सो लाइफ हैज बिकम अ लॉट मोर सिंपल. आज से 100 साल पहले एक एवरेज इंसान के पास जो दिन में फारिग टाइम होता था, इट यूज्ड टू बी लेस देन 1 or 2 hours. In today's world, an average person has about 5 to 6 hours of leisure time, free time. That is because they don't have to do all these various activities of life with so much of physical exertion and time. These things, they are time consuming when you have to do them manually. So जिंदगी गुजारने के लिए आपको बहुत आसानी पैदा हो गई है. Things have become a lot more simple for you. लेकिन अब डायलेमा क्या है? People have so much of free time because their life has become very simple, which they spend on watching TV, on chatting with friends, on socializing, on shopping, on entertainment, watching movies, which is actually what should not have been happening. The time that we have requires us to do things, to do such things which are higher in utilizing our potential, which are higher level processes. So there is a gap between the increasing complexity of the world and the ability of ourselves in coping with this increasing complexity of this world. हमारी लाइफ सिंपल से सिंपल होती जा रही है, दुनिया कॉम्प्लेक्स से कॉम्प्लेक्स होती जा रही है. हमें अब कुछ ऐसे करना है कि हम इस इंक्रीजिंग कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी के साथ चल सकें, इसके साथ कोप कर सकें. सो वी हैव टू लर्न टू डू समथिंग विच इज एट अ हायर लेवल, which is a higher order process. So जो accountant manual entries करता था, अब वो manual entries की जरूरत नहीं है, लेकिन उसको कुछ ऐसा करने की जरूरत है जो कि manual entry करने से which is a higher level process over it. So he needs to become familiar with probably data analysis, with synthesis of that information. The same is applicable all over the world. आप देखें एजुकेशन में आज से कुछ अर्सा पहले तक memorizing information was enough. आप याद करते हैं, आप उसको रिकॉल करते हैं और आप उसको पेपर में रिप्रोड्यूस कर देते हैं. ये काफी था. It was enough to show your competence in learning. But now, we require people to think critically. We require people to synthesize information. We require people to create new knowledge, to find out new answers, to think, not just memorize information. And that is not because we have become very clever, we have become very smart. That is because it is the requirement of the day. अगर हम ऐसा नहीं करेंगे, अगर हम सिर्फ रट्टे लगा कर याद करते रहेंगे, हम बहुत पीछे रह जाएंगे. So, we have to cope with the complexity of the world. So, it's not just the story of the complexity of the world, it is also a story of the complexity of the human mind, how it can cope with it. So, when we see a gap between the complexity of the world and the complexity of our capabilities, what do we need to do? Can we reduce the complexity of the world? Or can we increase the complexity of our own mind, the ability of our own mind to cope with this increasing complexity of the world? आज से 30 साल पहले तक ये possible नहीं था, क्योंकि आज से 30 साल पहले तक हमारा ह्यूमन ब्रेन के बारे में जो नॉलेज था वो हमें ये बताता था. Let's look at this slide. If you look at this slide, you will see that age is on the x-axis and mental complexity is on the y-axis. Age, you can see, is divided into 20, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s and onwards. And you can see that after mid-20s, the human mind stopped to develop. So, आज से 30 साल पहले तक हमारा जो नॉलेज था ह्यूमन ब्रेन के बारे में वो यही था कि हमारा ब्रेन 20 to 30s के दरमियान में डेवलप होना बंद कर देता है. That was natural science. The physical evidence that we saw. The neuroscientists, when they looked at the brain through their instruments, they saw that after 20 to 30s, the brain does not develop. But aren't older people wiser? बड़ी उम्र के लोगों को हम ज़्यादा दाना कंसिडर करते हैं, उनको हम ज़्यादा वाइज समझते हैं, उनके पास ज़्यादा नॉलेज होता है, वो ज़्यादा बेहतर एडवाइस दे सकते हैं. हम उनके पास जाते हैं कि वो हमें बताएं कि हमें क्या करना चाहिए, जो बात हमें नहीं समझ आ रही होती 30s में, 20s में, 40s में, वो बात हम बुजुर्गों से जाके पूछते हैं और जो बात वो हमें बताते हैं वो डेफिनेट वो बेहतर होती है उस अंडरस्टैंडिंग से जो हमारे पास होती है. सो फिर अगर इंसान का दिमाग 20s और 30s में डेवलप करना बंद कर देता है, then how are older people wiser? This is what the social scientists, they claimed. That the natural scientists or the hard science, it is not able to see that the human brain keeps developing. But the hard scientists, they claimed that because we can't see it, it is not happening. ये जो सोशल साइंसेस के लोग हैं ये तो हाइपोथेसिस टेस्टिंग करते हैं, ये तो इन्फ्रेंस निकालते हैं. और आपको पता है कि इन्फ्रेंस जो है दैट इज एन अप्रॉक्सीमेशन ऑफ रियलिटी. सो इसमें तो बहुत सी गलतियां हो सकती हैं. जो हम देख रहे हैं वो ठीक है, इट स्टॉप्स डेवलपिंग. 30 years down the lane, the hard scientists, neuroscientists, they have much more sophisticated instruments. And now they can see the brain in a lot more clear manner. They can observe things deeper into the brain. And it turns out that they were also making inferences. What they thought was the real thing wasn't the real thing. So what is the real thing? Have you heard about the concept of neuroplasticity? चले मैं बताती हूँ. Neuroplasticity is made of two words, neuro and plasticity. Neuro pertains to the brain, the human brain, and plasticity, it pertains to, the meaning is flexibility. The concept of neuroplasticity, it tells that the human brain keeps on developing throughout the life. It is the experience which leads to development of the human brain. So with increasing experience and with increasing age, the human brain keeps on developing both on the dimensions of physical structure, which is anatomy, the physical structure, and the functional organization, the physiology, its ability to perform. वो मशीनरी भी चेंज हो रही है, मशीनरी भी डेवलप हो रही है, और उस मशीनरी की एफिशिएंसी भी इंप्रूव हो रही है. Its functional organization is also improving. So the ability of the brain, it keeps on improving throughout the life. So now the understanding that we have about the human brain is something like this. If you look at the chart, you will realize you can infer many things from this graph. What can you see in this graph? Again, in this graph, age is on the x-axis and mental complexity is on the y-axis. What can you infer from this graph? This is a graph which shows that with a large enough sample, you can detect a mildly upward sloping curve. You can detect that it is mildly upward sloping. You can also see that a person in his 30s can be anywhere located on this map. He can be at a low level of mental complexity, or he can be at a very high level of mental complexity. It also shows that a person in his 40s may be much less than his ability to carry out mental processes than a person in his 30s. But what you can see in this graph is that the maximum level of mental ability a person can attain in his 30s is less than the maximum level of mental ability a person can attain in his 60s. So the maximum level of ability in 60s is more than the maximum level of ability in 30s. So we can say that there is something that happens with age. What does happen with age? With age, we get more experience. We get to see more variations. We get to see more possibilities. So we get more experience, and that is the factor that leads to the ability of the brain to perform better than a person who's lesser in age. So if we convert this graph into a line, this is something that will emerge. This is the mental complexity trajectory. And we can see that with age, it keeps on going upwards. What are the elements that you can see in this graph? First thing that you can see is that there are qualitatively different, discernibly distinct levels, which are the plateaus, and each level represents quite a different way of knowing the world, quite a different way of knowing the world, quite a better way of knowing the world. Another thing which you can see in this graph is that development does not unfold continuously. There are periods of stability and periods of change. So कुछ अर्सा डेवलपमेंट होती है, फिर आप एक प्लेटू पे आ जाते हैं, एक स्टेबल स्टेट सिचुएशन में आ जाते हैं, स्टेट में आ जाते हैं, फिर दोबारा डेवलपमेंट होती है, उसके बाद फिर कुछ अर्सा आप एक स्टेबल स्टेट में रहते हैं, एंड देन डेवलपमेंट में आकर अगेन. Another thing that you can see from this graph is that the intervals between transformations to new levels, the time that you spend on a plateau gets longer and longer. Another thing that you can see in this graph is that the line gets thinner, representing fewer and fewer people at the higher plateaus. So एक तो ये कि आप जैसे जैसे develop करते हैं, you spend more time on one state, on one plateau. क्योंकि अगले लेवल पे जाना मुश्किल होता है, so you spend more time on that. And then less and less people move on to the higher level. The transformation of human mind, it happens in less and less people. Therefore, the line, it gets thinner and thinner. So there are more people at the lower level of mental ability and lesser on the higher levels. Now, what do we call these plateaus? What do we call these levels? These state of mental ability. The first level is called the socialized mind. The second level is called the self-authoring mind, and the third level is called the self-transforming mind. Now let's take a look at the characteristics of each of these levels. So let's take a look first of all at the socialized mind. That is the very basic level of mental ability. One thing that I would like to clarify is that this is not IQ. This is not even EQ, what we call emotional quotient. This is a combination of IQ and EQ. This is the ability to cope with world's complexity. So this mental ability should not be confused with intelligence quotient or emotional quotient. It is something which is a combination of both. So a socialized mind, let's first of all define. In a socialized mind, if we are in a socialized mind, we are shaped by the definitions and expectations of our personal environment. So a socialized mind would do those things, would act in a manner which he or she thinks that his environment wants them to act like. A person with a socialized mind will be influenced by the personal environment. So we will do those things what our parents want us to do, what we see our parents doing. We will do those things which our friends want us to do, which our teachers want us to do, which our religion wants us to do. We will identify with our families, with our society, with our culture, with our organizations. We will identify with people that we admire, such as political leaders or movie actors. We will identify with the external environment, and we will try to behave in a way that the external environment, as we perceive the external environment, wants us to behave like. So our actions will be guided by our personal environment. Then our self coheres by the alignment with and loyalty to that with which it identifies. So ये बात मैंने अभी कर दी है कि जिससे हम आइडेंटिफाई करेंगे, जिसकी चीज के साथ हम रिलेट करेंगे, जो कि हमारी फैमिली, हमारा ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, हमारा कॉन्टेक्स्ट, जिस चीज के साथ हम रिलेट करेंगे, हमारे जिस रिलीजन के साथ हम रिलेट करेंगे, हम उन चीजों के साथ अपनी मेंटल कोहेरेंस डेवलप करेंगे. हमारा जो इनसाइड है, इट विल कोहेयर विद द थिंग्स दैट वी आइडेंटिफाई विद. Then this can express itself primarily in our relationships with people, with schools of thought, our ideas and beliefs, or both. So how we develop relationships and how we develop ideas and beliefs, that is going to be expressed in these two dimensions. A person with the socialized mind will have certain characteristics. He will be a good team player because he identifies with the group. Therefore, he can be a good team player. He will do things that are required to be done by the group. Then this person is a faithful follower. If he identifies with somebody, if he thinks that a person is credible, if a person is respectable, if he thinks so, he will be a very faithful follower. अगर वो किसी के साथ ऐसा रिलेशनशिप बना ले जिसमें वो किसी की बहुत रिस्पेक्ट करता हो, उसको अपना लीडर मानता हो, तो फिर वो उसको जो भी कहेंगे वो काम करेगा. Then this person is aligning. He aligns with others. He will not go into another direction. He will not be a rebellion. बागी नहीं होगा. वो दूसरों के साथ लाइन में खड़ा होगा. वो दूसरों के साथ अलाइन करेगा क्योंकि वो ग्रुप के साथ रहना चाहता है. वो ग्रुप के साथ आइडेंटिफाई करता है. Then this person seeks direction because he follows what the environment asks him to do, what the external factors require him to do. So, he will not have a judgment of his own. He will not have a perception of his own. He will need direction. So, he will need to be directed. He will need to be told कि ये काम ऐसे करना है, ये काम ऐसे करना है, इसको ऐसे देख लो, इसको ऐसे देख लो. So, he needs direction and therefore he seeks direction. He will identify with someone who will be able to give him that direction. And finally, this person is reliant on others. Because he needs direction, he needs to be dependent on others. And when he needs to be dependent, he needs to rely on them. So he needs to trust them. He is a person who is reliant on other people. So that are the characteristics of a socialized mind. That is the very basic level of mental ability. Then the next level is self-authoring mind. A self-authoring mind, if we have a self-authoring mind, we are able to step back enough from the social environment to generate an internal seat of judgment or personal authority that evaluates and makes choices about external expectations. So if we have a self-authoring mind, we are able to analyze the various schools of thought and then create a seat of judgment of our own. We develop a lens of our own. We develop a perception of our own. If a person has a self-authoring mind, the self coheres by its alignment with its own belief system, ideology, personal code, by its ability to self-direct, take stands, set limits, and create and regulate its boundaries on behalf of its own voice. So a person with a self-authoring mind is somebody who is agenda driving. A person who has its own plan, its own projects, things that he wants to achieve. So this is a person who is agenda driving, not agenda following. This person leads. He is a leader who is in a learning phase. So a leader who has a self-authoring mind learns to lead. He learns to make people follow him. He learns to how to make people follow his agenda. So he is a leader in a learning phase. This person has its own compass, his own frame of mind, in which he will have his restricted thinking. He will not be affected by the environment. Whatever judgment, whatever school of thought he creates within his own mind, he will stick to that frame. This person is problem solving because he has an ability to understand things and to find answers to those things. He will be a good problem solver. And then this person is independent. He doesn't need to depend on others. He can follow his own agenda. He can make people follow that agenda too. And therefore, he is independent in creating his perceptions. He is independent in deciding what he wants to do. So that is the second level of mental ability. And finally, the third level, the highest level of mental complexity is the self-transforming mind. If we have a self-transforming mind, we can step back from and reflect on the limits of our own ideology or personal authority. See that any one system or self-organization is in some way partial or incomplete. Be friendlier towards contradiction and opposites. Seek to hold on to multiple systems rather than projecting all but one onto the other. So simply, if a person has a self-transforming mind, he will be able to observe his own lens. A self-authoring mind has a lens of its own, and he sees everything from that same lens. A self-transforming mind can take off his lens and actually look at it कि ये लेंस ठीक है, मेरी ग्लासेस तो धुंधली नहीं हैं जिसकी वजह से मुझे ये ठीक नहीं नजर आ रहा, मेरी ग्लासेस साफ हैं. So a person with a self-transforming mind can change his lenses because he can take off the lens and look at the lens and try to analyze whether that lens is correct or not. So he will not stick to the same ideology if he finds enough argument against that ideology. अगर उसको कोई कन्विंस कर सके कि ये जो आइडियोलॉजी आप होल्ड करते हैं, ये जो आपके परसेप्शन है इस प्रोजेक्ट के बारे में, ये ठीक नहीं है, ये प्रोजेक्ट कामयाब नहीं होगा, he will not stick to that. He will be ready to change his lens. So a self-transforming mind, in that our self coheres through its ability not to confuse internal consistency with wholeness or completeness, and through its alignment with the dialect rather than either pole. हमारा अंदर का जो हमारा mind है, it coheres with the fact, with understanding the fact that whatever belief we hold it confidently. Yes, we hold that belief. There are some advantages of holding that belief. But we do not confuse that belief is complete and whole. That belief is changeable. That belief can be added. It can be modified by some additions. So our mind coheres by realizing that we are supposed to keep finding the truth rather than sticking to some particular pole. So a self-transforming mind is a meta-leader. He leads from all the dimensions. He leads from controlling his own self as well as other people. This person leads to learn. He is not in a process of learning to lead. He leads to learn new things. He leads to learn new developments. He leads to learn new knowledge, to learn new experiences. He holds multiple frames and he can easily hold contradictions. This person is problem finding because he will look at a normal situation and try to see what may be going wrong when nobody can see it. So this person is very good at identifying problems. And then this person is interdependent. He realizes that nobody can be successful alone. You need to depend on other people. You need to depend for experiences. You need to depend for advice. You need to depend for information. You need to depend for resources. So how can I be independent? All in all, nobody can be independent. And he realizes that. And therefore, he is interdependent. He is able to make other people give him things that are required to grow, that are required to improve. So, these are the characteristics of a self-transforming mind. The discussion is not over yet. We will continue talking about this mental complexity model and its implications. और अभी शायद आपको ये समझ नहीं आ रही होगी कि हम ये बात क्यों कर रहे हैं, but in the next session, I will try to make you understand what is the connection between this mental ability and complexity and success of organizations. So today we are going to conclude our session now. We will meet next time. So until then, Allah Hafiz.